Alright, man. It's goalie week. We gotta get into the goalie mindset. We gotta get in the zone. Are you ready? Alright. Here we go. I miss having friends. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in. I'm Casey Bryant, and this is the Hat City Hockey Show, soon to be as beloved a Danbury institution as Glover Teixeira, poop factories, and overturned tractor trailers on I-84. I-84, your trip is delayed 45 minutes. For those who have seen last week's episode, you may have noticed a certain running theme with our guests.
She just saw me in the door and, I was down on a knee, so definitely surprised her.
We're on baby watch any time now, so if I have to leave abruptly, you'll understand.
Yeah, around the time of filming, Phil Bronner got engaged, and Brendan Burke and his wife, no joke, had their baby days after the interview. That's incredible! Everyone is going through this life-changing event. Meanwhile, I burned through the entirety of Schitt's Creek this week and got the second high score on my copy of Star Fox 64, so it's a pretty big time for all of us right now. With a looming labor dispute further jeopardizing an already dicey NHL season, hockey news is at a bit of a standstill. Some teams are still revealing their full reverse retro uniforms, like the Dallas Stars, who, for whatever reason, used a silver-tinted visor in the release, looking like Daft Punk on skates. Like Daft Puck? That was terrible, I'm sorry. Goaltending is our focus this week. It's one of the most unique positions in sports because of the responsibility, the style, and just how freaking expensive it is. Anyone whose kid says that they want to be a goalie has the same look of existential dread on their face because they know their future will look something like this.
Oh my god! It's in here.
Hey, pay attention.
Those are my cousins, Lucas and Colin, in the video. Colin is about 3 there in the goalie pads, beaming with pride in his oversized pads, blissfully unaware the ball is even touching him, while his parents contemplate why they didn't just duct tape down pillows to his legs instead of dropping $1,000 on a set of pads that will be outgrown in 2 years. On top of all that, goalies are notoriously the strangest characters in the game. For instance, Glenn Hall would ritualistically throw up before games because he believed it made him play better. Patrick Waugh would converse with his goalposts during the game because they're his friends. And Gilles Gratton, I'm not making this up, this is 100% true, once said that he believed he was a Spanish count in a past life who stoned commoners for fun, and on another occasion said that he was a soldier during the Spanish Inquisition who was killed by a lance. I don't have a joke for this, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard. I only wish that I was that entertaining in a past life, let alone 2 of them. Before we get to our first guest, we want to highlight our charity of the week. We're shouting out the Goalie Guild, a program devoted to educating and supporting aspiring goaltenders. You can check out their scholarships, their gear giver equipment donations, and their Lift the Mask mental health initiative at thegoalieguild.com. With that in mind, I went into work the other day and had the chance to sit down with one of Danbury's netminders. Take a look. I'm here in the Fairfield County Bank Vault. The suite section here in Danbury Arena was missing a view of the ice, so figured I'd come on out here to welcome my first guest to the Hat City Hockey Show. He's a 3-year pro goaltender who just signed for a 2nd season with the Danbury Hat Tricks. Please welcome number 29, DK, Dillon Kelley. Dillon, how you doing, bud?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hey, nice shirt.
Thanks. Oh, yeah. Just came in the mail yesterday, actually.
How are you keeping sane? I like to ask all of our guests what they're reading, what they're watching, what they're listening to. What has kept you going while you're up there in Michigan?
Right on. So I've got my own little gym in my garage, so that's been keeping me busy. I'm just hanging out here, doing a lot of mobility stuff, just trying to stay moving, keep myself busy, hand-eye, just try and stay sharp when I can't get on the ice. I've been pretty fortunate to have some ice up here, so my mom and I are actually watching this show called Queen of the South. It's on Netflix, 4 seasons. We're actually on season 4, episode, I want to say 11. So we're nearing the end here, but it's pretty good. It's about like this cartel drug boss. She's a badass chick, but and then just blowing up the Rabbits group chat and Snapchat as well. That's been keeping me pretty busy. I send those boys at least 12 to 15 snaps a day, and
Who's got the funniest snap game going?
That's tough. Everyone kind of brings their own little piece of the puzzle. It's a solid mix.
You mentioned mobility, because I know you've been keeping active physically. You have your fitness brand, DK Mobility. I see the videos on Facebook all the time, and I should probably get on that because, you've been keeping active. You look like you could hop on the ice tomorrow and be fine. Meanwhile, I spend my evenings eating chocolate chips out of the bag, binging Veep. That's about where I'm at. What can I do to kind of get on the Dillon Kelley physicality regime?
Yeah, man. First thing, honestly, without even getting too crazy or in depth, is just start putting a certain amount of time aside each day to just move. Your body needs movement. It wants movement. And if there's anyone out there trying to just start a routine, just start setting aside 5 minutes every single day to just move. Move around, on the ground, standing up, whatever. Just move whatever you're feeling. And then, progress from there to 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then maybe from there we can start talking about, specifics, stuff like that.
The leftovers from Thanksgiving are downstairs from my room, so that's movement.
There you go.
That's at least 30 seconds right there.
Runs up and down the stairs.
Get the seconds, get the thirds. I mean, that's different laps. I'm in the best shape of my life.
Hey man, don't let me fool you. I may or may not have eaten half a pecan pie. Is it pecan or pecan?
I always say pecan.
Yeah, pecan. I ate half a pecan pie for Thanksgiving the other day, so we're all guilty of it.
Now, we'll be talking to NHLer Steve Valiquette a little later on in the show, who was himself an NHL goaltender for 14 years. And one thing that we talk about is rituals and the various superstitions, because if there's one thing that goalies are kind of known for in the hockey zeitgeist, it's being the weird one on the ice. Do you have any rituals or superstitions that you like to do either before the game, on the ice, things that might be a bit odd?
I don't know if I have anything that would be odd, and I'm not even sure if I'd go as far as calling them superstitions or anything like that. I have routines for sure. Like
whatever verbiage makes you happy, whatever word makes you comfortable. You can call it oddities or routines. Yeah.
I always do some breathing. Like I always do some breath work before games, and then before we head out for every period, I always go over and kind of like take 5 good breaths, just kind of to myself before we start walking out. I do something during the anthem too. I kind of just like play almost like a movie reel of kind of my path to this point, kind of during the anthem. As you can tell, I'm not very good at sitting still. So like standing there for the anthem, especially when I'm like ready to play, is kind of tough for me. So at that point, that's kind of when I play the little movie through my head. And then from there, everything, once I can start actually playing the game, I can kind of quiet my mind.
You hear the trailer music going on in your head too, like the Herb Brooks speech going on, maybe?
Yeah, no. I'm listening. Like I feel like I'm still in the moment, but I do kind of just like, picture everything that's gotten me to this point, and then from there it's kind of like, okay, just focus on the moment type of deal. I guess one of the weirdest things might be like I always have my headphones on, but I like to dance. I'm always like bopping around the locker room and stuff in my headphones, and that's just like something, I don't know, maybe it's just I like to dance, or just kind of getting me in that like loose, pumped up, just like, okay, let's have some fun sort of mood.
What are you dancing to?
It's probably 98% hard rap music. Yeah.
Do you have any good luck charms that you carry with you?
I always text my mom before games, like as I'm getting to the ring. Like maybe that's good luck, yeah.
She'll think it's good. You had a really strong year last year for the Danbury Hat Tricks, and what I think is the defining characteristic really of the entire season was a shining point for you, which was that 3-game weekend set against the Carolina Thunderbirds.
The Danbury Hat Tricks have swept the Carolina Thunderbirds in his 4th start in 4 nights. Dillon Kelley stops 41 of 45.
That series was the peak, really, of the FPHL season. It was the 2 best teams standings-wise going at it. And in a 3-game set here in Danbury all in a row, the 4th game in a row for the Danbury Hat Tricks, all started by you. When you're a goaltender heading into that 4th night of consecutive action, can you feel your legs? Like at what point are you running on pure adrenaline over the course of such a trying weekend?
I think I speak for everyone. We were all feeling our legs. It felt like going to practice every day, right? Like it felt like a routine. Like we had played so many games, like just every night was a game. So it was like by that fourth game, we're like, just waking up and going to the rink to move around a little bit, and then we're gonna play a game tonight. Like games like those are easy to get up for, right? Like you just said, it's the two best teams. Quite a good rivalry that we have with Carolina, and that third period is definitely a mental grind, and it's just a matter of not listening to your body, like not listening to what your legs are screaming at you, like get the job done. And the boys played unreal in front of me that weekend too. Hats off to those guys too. Like it was 100% a team effort, and that was for sure probably one of the more special moments I've had in my pro career. Just the way we all battled and fought for one another. It was cool. It was so much fun. A lot of fun.
It's got to be a career highlight because it's not like you were starting 4 games in a row just because our coach is a sadist. It's because, you had your 2 other battery mates in Tom McGuckin and Nick Nieder playing elsewhere in the SPHL and the ECHL respectively. So your backup goalie was the goalie coach. It was Matt Voigt shooting up behind him. So you better not go down, otherwise, Matt has to come in.
Hey, rumor has it that when I think we were up like 6-4 or 6-3 or something like that. Rumor has it, I don't know, you might have to verify, but rumor has it Billy was like, hey, Voigt, you want to go in? Like, you want to go in? He's like, no, like, I ain't going in. Like, it's 6-4. Like, and there was still like 10 minutes left. He would have kicked. I know I would have kicked. He was kicking in warm-up, so it was fun. It was pretty cool to like have your mentor on the bench with you, like, and to finish it off the way we did with the 3-game sweep was just super cool. And to have him out there like in gear on the ice with me and just like getting dressed with me before the game and stuff was like super fun. So.
And I want to show you one thing. I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see what I'm looking at, because this is round 2 of the shootout against Carolina. You know what's coming. Let's roll the film. This is Peter Panachik of the Carolina Thunderbirds skating in, takes the shot, pad save, fires it in the second time. Big no-no, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, at any point in the game, too, like, if it was the first, second, third period, like, even if a guy does that after a whistle, like, he's probably getting jumped 100%. So, like, I don't know. There just was never really a doubt. And like I said, so much confidence in, our team as a whole. So, yeah, I got cocky and I was like, hey, man, if I start running my mouth and I back it up, this is going to fire up the boys. Like, they're going to love this on the bench. So I was just like, all right, let's do it. Like, and it fed me too. Like, it just kept firing me up more and more and more. And, yeah, it was pretty fun.
I tell you, that's what I'm looking at next. Next guy comes in, you get a little piece of the stick on it, you start tapping the ice there. You start getting fired up. Another guy comes in, you stop him 5-hole, you fling the puck at him. That's a baller move.
Oh yeah, 100% it is.
Now Gavrek gets stopped. We should shout out, I guess briefly, Jacob Mullen is awesome in that shootout too. This was a legendary shootout.
He did really, really well as well.
Yeah, and then he
had a really good game.
You start talking to him here. You're shrugging at him. You're telling him get lost. Do you remember what you say to these guys at all?
I don't remember what I said to that last guy. I know the one that I got a stick on it. He thought he scored, and I almost thought he did too, right? Like he beat me. Like he definitely beat me. I fell on the fake, but got a piece of it with my stick, so I just got cocky. And I was like, "There's a stick there!" Like just started screaming at him. But I don't know. Honestly, man, I don't even know what I'm going to say. It just happens in the moment. Just running my mouth, but. Luckily, it worked out. Didn't have to eat my words.
It's good that you can back it up. I don't know if you remember, but one of the first days that you were here in Danbury, we sat you down pretty much where I am right now, and I asked you who were your role models growing up as a goaltender. And you mentioned Ron Hextall and Billy Smith, 2 guys who were kind of notorious for being insane between the pipes. So that was your little Ron Hextall moment.
There you go.
Really
yeah,
cool.
Absolutely.
I liked Ron Hextall and Billy Smith just because I'm a pretty high energy, intense guy, and those guys were just crazy on the ice, like great goaltenders, big leaders on their teams, but they were also just they made a lot of noise and caused a lot of havoc on the ice. So I always thought that was pretty cool.
Looking ahead now to this year, because You know, the FPHL has said that games tentatively, if everything goes according to plan, will be starting in January. What are you most looking forward to getting back in Danbury, and is there anything that you want to say to our fans who are waiting?
Honestly, I'm just most excited about getting back with the boys and, you know, kind of getting back in that element of being a hockey player again, right? That routine of just waking up, going to the rink, seeing the boys in the morning, hopping on the ice, just the whole routine. And I'm definitely itching to get back to Danbury. I know the rest of the boys are too. We really appreciate your guys' support through all of this, through this difficult time, through last season and what happened. And we can't wait to get back to fighting on the ice for the Rabbits and for you guys. So
we can't wait to see you suiting back up again. I loved the DK Donkey Kong sticker that you added to your mask as well. That was a nice touch.
I'm getting a big rabbit for the top if there's a season. I'm getting that rabbit on there. I was actually going to order it today. I was thinking about it.
Hey, look good, play good, right? That's the whole fun of being a
100%.
goalie.
Oh yeah.
Well, Dillon, thank you so much. I know I've got the bug to get back on the ice. You can probably hear it humming in the background. The Zamboni is going onto the ice right now, cutting it, and it just feels weird not having action on there right now. So we can't wait to get back. Stay safe, bud. Really thank you for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Hope to see you back on the ice soon.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me.
The Hat City Hockey Show is presented by the Danbury Hat Tricks. Follow @Danbury Hat Tricks on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to youtube.com/Danbury Hat Tricks. My next guest on the Hat City Hockey Show is a 14-year pro hockey goaltender. He spent 1 year with the New York Islanders and 5 with the New York Rangers. He's now currently an analyst for MSG Networks and a pioneer in the field of hockey analytics. Please welcome Steve Valiquette. Steve, before I get into the hard-hitting questions, of course, I wanted to show you something because one of our season ticket holders in Danbury is the goaltender for the Rangers sled hockey team.
Oh, neat.
And I wanted to show you what might look familiar. Does anything about his setup look similar to you?
Oh, nice. He's got the helmet.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's Ron Rigel. He's one of our season ticket holders. Great guy and does a lot of work with the sled hockey team.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Yeah, I want to get out with those guys. I was talking about that before the shutdown.
Ron will always brag about the time that he stopped Mark Stahl, because he got Mark on the sleds. So he could say he saved an NHL shot.
Yeah, there you go. That's awesome. Good for him.
I always ask any of my guests first what has been keeping them sane during quarantine, especially when there's not a lot of pro hockey to talk about. I know you said you've been on the ice, but is there anything else that you've been reading, watching, listening to that has sort of kept you going through this whole thing?
Yeah, the reading helps. I think that we've got a lot of time to read. The Inner Game of Tennis is really interesting to me right now because it's a book about coaching, and I'm coaching a lot right now, so reading through that and seeing the points of when you're coaching, when you shouldn't interrupt somebody when they're trying to self-organize, because that's typically what you do when you're coaching. You want to coach, but taking a step back and allowing the student to go through the process that they have to go through to make adjustments it's a pretty neat thing. It's something that, it's something that we don't do often enough. The MVP Machine I'm reading as well, from baseball to hockey. My son plays a lot of baseball. There's a lot of translatable language now in analytics that can, ideas that can be used from player development in baseball that can be used in hockey. This one right here was really good. I've got it right next to me. The Rise of Superman, really good about talking about the mental part of the game and how to get your mindset correct to achieve peak performance. I mean, I read a lot. I try and read as much as I can, so it's been good for that. I've had a lot of downtime.
That's great. Our new head coach of our pro team, Anthony Bone, who came to us from the Maine Mariners, is a big reading junkie as well for those coaching books. He's got in his office columns worth of coaching books. It sounds like from this conversation, I already know what the answer to this is going to be. But the last time that the Rangers were in action, you had stuff to talk about was in August when they were going into a bubble. And a lot of players were bringing in instruments. If this were in your playing days, what would you be bringing into the bubble?
Basically, what can I live without, right? I can't live without it.
Right.
What would have been hard for me is when I was playing, I always traveled with a rose. Most of my teammates didn't know this, but I had to always have a rose on hand, and I went through the process of looking at the heart of the rose and looking deep inside it. And when I first started doing it, I wanted to see how long I could hold a thought without something coming in and scattering my brain. And it was good because in the beginning I could only go about 20 seconds without something else coming into my mind that was taking me away from my focus, which was the rows. And by the end of it, I just started a timer. I mean, I had to put on a 20-minute timer because I'd lose myself in it, and it helped me have like a clear mind space for the game. The difficult part about this ritual superstition was that I had to always find a rose. So no matter where I went, I was always, my wife would be taking me to the airport and we got to find a rose. It was not always easy. And then you're on the road for long enough time and your rose looks beat up and it's dying. So oddly enough, it would be a rose.
Wow, that's awesome. And that kind of ties into the overarching motif in hockey of goalies being weird. So
now, ordinarily, when you're going to look for roses, your wife would probably think of the first time, oh, that's so sweet. He's getting me roses.
She'd get 11 out of the dozen, and I'd have to take one with me.
Well, all right. That's really interesting. I've never heard that before as a focus technique. And I know that Jimmy Howard has his eye tricks. Braden Holtby is incredibly idiosyncratic and ritualistic when it goes to the mental aspect of the game. But that's a new one. I've never heard that one.
If anybody tries it, I mean, you look inside it and you'll realize that you've never really looked at a rose. It's very dark when you look into it. It's meditative. It helps. Whatever it takes, you have to be able to get your mind into a very quiet, serene place to have optimal performance. Like I said, I read books about it all the time still because I need to go there even for my TV job. I can't go in there with a lot of noise between my ears. I've got to focus and take a deep breath and stay calm, and a lot of the same principles you have as a hockey player.
I'm sure that kind of focus comes in handy in your playing career. Our fans will be particularly familiar with you because you spent time in Connecticut with the Bridgeport Sound Tigers and the Hartford Wolfpack. And that first year in Bridgeport with the Sound Tigers, you're part of a formidable battery with the #1 overall pick in Rick DiPietro. And ahead of you with the big league club, you've got Roberto Luongo and eventually Chris Osgood. When you're in competing for an NHL job and you're putting up really good numbers and you're alongside the #1 overall pick, does that drive you? How does that kind of elevate your game when you've got such stiff competition?
Casey, it's bizarre. When you're playing, you think you're better than everybody. I think that anybody that's worth their salt has a strong belief system. You want to keep it real and you want to be realistic with what you feel that you can accomplish. But there's also an unrealistic approach to what your future is when it's very uncertain in most cases. A lot of times when you're playing hockey, you don't know if everything that you're sacrificing today is going to bring a great tomorrow. Certainly some of the obstacles that you face are people. You have to go over or around them. Rick DiPietro was a great friend of mine. I never saw it as a detriment at all that we were in the same organization trying to climb the ladder. I got traded. I went to Edmonton. I went to New York after that, the Rangers. And when I joined the Rangers, one of the best experiences I had was the 04-05 lockout, where we all knew we were going to be in the minors for the full season. And Jason LaBarbera was my teammate there. And I was working with a sports psychologist at the time. I was 27 years old and I was Jason's backup. But the best information I got about my own personal growth came from this lady, Giselle Bourgeois. She was a sports psychologist, and I started working with her on my approach with my teammates and not wishing bad on them. And this is a hard thing for goalies, and most coaches kind of have to hear it from a retired guy, but your backup goalie doesn't want the starter to be successful. Like you want him to let goals in so then you get an opportunity to play. But with Giselle and working with Giselle, we talked about when Jason LaBarbera makes a save, you make a save because your unconscious mind can't differentiate between you wanting him to perform poorly and then you getting the opportunity yourself and then trying to play well after you've played poorly, if that makes sense. It made sense to me. I started visualizing the saves that I was making on the bench when Jason was making them on the ice. I'd get thrown into a game cold, but I was no longer cold. I was ready to play. And I had a higher level of success for that. But there's a lot of self-mastery that goes on off the ice when it comes to your mindset, the growth that you're able to not just withstand, but just conceptualize, understand enough to try and figure out and then use And that was a big part of it for me that year in 04-05. And I think that point forward, it was very easy for me to play competitively, but not compete against my partner, compete with him.
Right, because at the end of the day, you're all pulling on the same rope, right? And I'm sure it helps that you were surrounded by such great talent through a lot of your career. You did have DiPietro, Luongo ahead of you. Then when you got to the Rangers, you had Henrik Lundqvist ahead of you. And you get to be surrounded by such competitors. I want to ask you if you remember one of your battery mates when you were in Bridgeport. Do you remember Scott Sterling when you were there?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yep. Is he involved at all in Danbury or?
Scott is a former member of the Danbury Trashers from the United Hockey League. So our fans will remember him on the ice in a friendly uniform in Danbury Arena.
Yep. So he came up and he, like some of us, you end up in different leagues and you play in different places, and then all of a sudden you get a chance to play in the American Hockey League, and you're really an injury, an illness, a suspension away from getting a chance at the NHL. And that's what's very unique about the minor league system. I mean, there was one year I was in the East Coast Hockey League. I got called up to the American Hockey League, and then a month later I was in the NHL playing games for the Islanders. There are days where you feel so far away from the NHL that you can't even bear it. But if you stick with it and you work through it, you have to keep your name in the lottery. You have to keep your name in the lottery. And that was advice I got from a guy named Aris Bermanis. Aris played in the minors a very long time, and then he got up with the New York Islanders in 2000. He said, Val, you just got to keep your name in the lottery. And, to do that, it's not easy. But you've got to keep your name in the lottery because you don't have a chance to get chosen unless you do the work that gives you the opportunity to have the opportunity.
Now, you had mentioned the lockout year, and the year after the lockout year, I believe, was the year that you went to the KHL for your Russian season. You spent 2 years in Russia, one at the midway point and one towards the end of your career. I feel like everyone has at least one crazy KHL story. Like I remember Ryan Whitney wrote a Players Tribune piece about how his coach only called him Obama when he was in the KHL. Do you have any crazy Russian experiences out there?
I was there 2 years, so yeah, I have plenty. It was new, and I played in Yaroslavl, and at the time, the planes probably shouldn't have been in the air, and the buses probably shouldn't have been on the road, and the trains that we traveled in sometimes shouldn't have been on the tracks. It was hairy, getting paid in cash and driving at high rates of speed to get to the bank before it closes because you don't want to go back to your apartment with a bag of cash. So it was definitely the Wild West. I remember once when we were flying to Switzerland, my teammate who actually went down in the Yaroslavl accident, Karl Rakunek. Karl and I also played for the Rangers together. Karl and I were on the plane about to leave Moscow airport, and we were throwing all of our old luggage, a lot of our medical stuff off because we were overweight. So they were trying to differentiate what could stay, what could go. So we're getting rid of everything. And then as soon as we landed in Switzerland, we're unloading the airplane because we did it all ourselves. Like you're right on the tarmac and you're unloading it, you're putting it on the bus. And Carl just grabs me. He's like, Valley, look. And the guys were carrying the Gatorade bottles. They carried the big Gatorade bottles, the one that they dump on the coaches on football. So we actually brought water from Russia to Switzerland rather than medical supplies and a lot of the gear that we needed. Like that's how we were rolling in Russia. It was every day was a different story, but man, some I can tell you, some I can't. But
the Moscow team that you were a part of later in, I think it was 2010, 2011, it has, Nikita Gusev on it, who's on the Devils now, Jan Stasny, Steve Valiquette.
Kucherov was on that team too.
Yeah.
A lot of good players, man. There's a lot of good players in Russia, a lot of good players in Russia that never even come over that you don't hear about. And they're just legends over there, and they still pay very well, so it's very difficult to get some of the guys that just love being in Russia to come over to North America. But we're also blessed with a lot of great players, and I've had a lot of great Russian teammates. I've always liked the language too. I learned how to speak Russian when I was there, enough to get through a day. That's what was kind of unique about it too, is like you said, in Moscow that I played for the Red Army, it was only Jan Stasny. The hard thing about it is you can't enjoy the sense of humor that you would in the locker room when you're all speaking the same language. That's the hard part.
Well, because especially in hockey, you know, the art of the chirp and the comeback is kind of ingrained in the culture. I'm sure you lose that rat-a-tat when you're in the locker room.
Big time. I mean, I think that's what we all miss most when we retire. You don't get a sense of that in Europe when you're a North American player unless you get to speak the language. But it was a really good experience. I'm glad I did it. It was dangerous, though. I was going to sign with the Yaroslavl team again, and I chose not to. And luckily, I didn't, because that was the accident that happened, and it took all my teammates. So it's very, it's still a tough subject to talk about.
Sure. The Russian experience is what has, you know, I'm sure a lot of Ranger fans excited for, you know, Panarin, Buchnevich, Shesterkin, Kravtsov, Rykov. We're waiting for that, you know, Russian 5 Detroit Red Wings experience.
Yeah. And the Russian goalies have really taken over in the NHL too. When you look at the final this year, Vasilevsky had Rudobin and Varlamov playing for the Islanders. They're stacked, and they're doing something over there that maybe we're not doing enough of, because a lot of the top goalies coming over right now, Shesterkin obviously in New York, Sorokin who's coming to the Islanders next year. The Russians are turning out goalies. Their movement's really strong. I think that's what it is right now. When you watch them, they all move very well, and they have a very good sense of reading the game. Shesterkin, from the time he started with the Rangers, his reads were outstanding. He didn't challenge just to challenge. He did it because there was the time to challenge. And he would stay back when there was pressure from behind. And I thought that his reads were more like a 30-year-old than a 23 turning 24-year-old. He's good.
Which I think that analysis kind of transitions into what you've been doing after your playing career ended, which is your work in analytics. I attended your ClearSight analytics conference a few years back. I thought it was fascinating. I took just a binder full of notes. Loved that experience. I thought it was awesome. And for a long time, analytics were kind of a taboo subject in sports. And in a few ways, it still is kind of, if you ask the old heads of the league or anyone who saw Kevin Cash pull Blake Snell too early in the World Series. But the work that you do is clear, it's concise, and it's applicable because of the way that you've watched hours of game film. You had said that you and your team watched virtually every single pro and collegiate game. Is that still true? How much game film do you think you've watched?
Thankfully, now we have a contract with a company that provides us with the video that we can see it with it being attached to every one of our shots. But we tracked 58,000 shots last year in the NHL, and there's 34 points of data for every chance or shot. But I think if there's one mistake I made was actually just calling the company analytics, because what it is it's clear sight hockey. We are just categorizing all of the different chance types that happen in a game and then counting them up and then seeing how often they go in and who's missing them and who's scoring and what goalies are stopping them. Really, it's about taking the chances from a hockey game and then boiling it down to these ones were really good, these ones were okay, and these ones are really bad. If you really watch the game, we all know what a good chance is, but we all don't really know what a bad chance is.
Right.
And a bad chance is a bad chance because everybody in the league's stopping it, but your goalie didn't tonight. It's not like I'm sitting at my kitchen table having breakfast and I'm like, oh, bad goal. You know, no, it's not that. It's a lot of the bad goals, in fact, people think are not so bad. A player coming out of the corner, deflecting the puck in the net that was delivered from the point on the ice doesn't look that bad. You could say it's a deflection and you can excuse it, and a lot of different players could argue, or staff members can argue about that. And the bottom line is, at the end of the day, it's not bad because I'm calling it's bad. It's bad because everybody else stops it. Your guy doesn't. It's great. It's a great goal because nobody stops it. That's a really good one. And historical averages come up. How many does it take to get a goal, right? 3 breakaways, you get 1 goal. So that's a .30 chance to score. The math part of it really is an expected goals model. And that's why our company is on point right now, because we've been able to nail that down, the expected goals model.
It's all about finding what will work repeatedly as opposed to just the one-off isolated incidents, I'm sure. One of my favorite stats that you came up with at that conference was the pass that leads to a high danger chance, but doesn't necessarily lead to a goal. You know, the sort of should have been assists category. I remember Scott Gomez said that he wished he had that stat category when he was still playing at that conference. Is there anyone around the NHL now that you think is really good at that?
I recently looked at that page and most recently was surprised about how high up on the list Barzal is. I knew he was an elite player, but he's right there with the best passers in the game, and Connor McDavid's at the top. I knew he was a great player, don't get me wrong, but when you're talking about the top 1 and 2 and 3 passers in the game, he's in every conversation. The expected assist is important because goals are somewhat random. Some players can come in and out of the top 5 in the league based on luck. One of the chances that goes in very frequently for us is a high percentage broken play. So it's a play that's coming off of a low east to west pass that goes off a skate and it goes into the back of the net. Well, there's definitely some element to luck, but on the flip side of that, it's also very good players that command that luck because they have the intent to make the play.
A real man makes his own luck, Archie.
But the players that are consistent year over year that are passing the puck into those high danger chances, those are the guys you want to fill your team with.
Before I let you go, I'm going to rapid fire some names of teammates at you, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the name. Number 1, Kevin Weeks.
Hard to say this because it's 2 goalies. It's between Weeks and DiPietro of the 2 funniest teammates I've ever had. They were hysterical. Weeksy and I were goalie partners in the summer as well, and trained together, and we'd spend an hour in the locker room afterwards just telling stories and laughing, and man, his sense of humor. So if it's 2 words, funniest guy.
Speaking of funny goaltenders, Roberto Luongo.
Well, Roberto was very serious. He wasn't as funny as he is now post-career and doing what he does because he can relax. But see, Bert was really competitive and he was very focused, and he was also in the beginning stages of his career when I played with him. So as much as you might see him now, when he was 20 and 21, he was very, very, very serious.
Scott Gomez.
He's one of my best friends. He and I have had a lot of good times together away from the rink, and still keep in close contact with him, talk to him very frequently. Good time Charlie is Scott Gomez. He knows how to take a little bit of the heat of the season away and get everybody to relax, reset, calm down. And he was really good at bringing the team together, really, really good at bringing the team morale and camaraderie together.
And he's got your picture on his fridge that I saw on his YouTube channel.
Yeah, he had Marcus Naslin and I, and we used to go to dinner, the 3 of us, so he thought that would be funny.
Colton Orr.
So Orrzy was the toughest teammate I ever played with, and a lot of funny stuff playing with Orrzy. There was once where one of the NHL GMs wanted to get his hand x-rayed to see if he had a plate in it, because nobody wanted Orrzy to play in this game because he was knocking everybody out, so they thought that he had a bionic hand. And Orrzy took the x-ray of his hand. He had to send it to the league to prove that he didn't have anything in it. And he also had to send that same x-ray to the GM that was asking for it. And he sent it with the middle finger. And, I had him sign it for me because I just got such a kick out of that story. I wasn't always chasing down memorabilia and things, but this was a special occasion. I was like, Orrzy, I need a copy of that. And he wrote "To Valley when a myth becomes a legend." He signed it. And yeah, we still laugh about that one today.
Last teammate, Henrik Lundqvist.
So Hank was just special because he was the hardest worker. He was the most committed and most competitive. And he was just unique because I'm getting on 28, 29 by the time I start playing with him. And I'd already been with Luongo, DiPietro. I'd been with some really star players, Weeks. And Hank was different. Like, his approach to practice was as focused as his approach to games. And that was different. 15 minutes before we were ready to go on the ice, I knew it was time to stop talking. And he was going through his regimen of getting prepared to go. And, I can't say enough about him. I respect him so much. I respect everything he's done in the game. And he's been a big part of the reason why the Rangers were put back on the map. There was a long time there where the team was on uneasy footing. And when Henrik took over, it really changed everything and sent the trajectory of the team on a different path. And that says a lot for one guy to be able to do that, but he brought the culture back to New York.
And finally, a question about everyone's favorite teammate, Steve Valiquette. On March 26th, 2009, you recorded your first and only NHL assist. Who was it against? Who scored the goal? Do you know?
Yeah, no, I don't remember. that.
It was against the Atlanta Thrashers. It was a Chris Drury power play goal.
I vaguely remember that. I think I went off the wall on that pass. Obviously, we're not going to go back that far and get the video, but...
Antropov leaves the ice now, but Antropov was established in front. That's onside. Drury with a shot. He scores! So Stephen Valiquette, how about this pass? There's going to be one assist on the play, and that's to Valiquette.
That was my only assist, huh? Jeez.
It was. I
just thought it was important not to make mistakes with the puck, not try to be a hero with it. Wrong gloves, wrong stick, wrong pads.
Well, sorry to end this on a loss for you, but Steve, I really appreciate you sitting down with us. Thank you so much, and we hope you're keeping safe and healthy, and we hope to see you back on the air on MSG soon.
My pleasure, Casey. Have a great day, buddy.
Thank you. You too.
That'll do it here at the Hat City Hockey Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this episode, be sure to click the subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any future episodes. Be sure to follow at Danbury Hat Tricks on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and join our mailing list at danburyhattricks.com. That'll do it here. I'm Casey Bryant. Take care.